You're not alone. If you need someone to talk to today, please contact Crisis Services Canada by either calling them at 1-833-456-4566 all hours of the day, or you can text them at 45645 at 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, you're not alone, and Crisis Services Canada is here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Manitoba's show, Rise and Shine Manitoba, here on AETi Productions. I'm your host, Graeme Forsyth. This edition of the show is brought to you by Evolve Green, AETi, and Smiley Worms. We got two guests joining the show today. We're going to start off with the farm report. Harry Siemens is going to join the show to talk about, what the snow has been like, how it's been affecting agriculture here across the country, as well as some other things as well. Also going to be joined by Gordie Tumilson later on in the show, goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, to talk about the past weekend of games, the week of practice coming up for the team, as well as the upcoming games for the three teams in the academy this upcoming week/weekend. And then we'll end off with an edition of an opinionated segment, Graham's Opinion, here on Manitoba's show. Coming up first, though, is Harry Siemens on the Farm Report after the intro here on Manitoba's show. And you know what that means, Manitoba. It's time to rise and shine. And joining the show now to talk about the snow and many other things is Harry Siemens here on this week's edition of the Farm Report, brought to you by Wolf Enterprises. And Harry, joining the show, as always, most recently, as we've been doing on these Wednesday mornings. Harry, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, man, since the last time that we talked?
I'm doing good. And you know what? It's I'm sitting a little higher, and I think I need another pillow on my chair. But hey, here we go. It's the snow, as we've talked about it, is most welcome. Farmers love it. The field work was finished, soil was done well, and all those kinds of things have all been working great. And so yes, going forward, keep the snow coming. Yeah, I know we have some producers saying, like especially the cattle producer, Ian Smith, north of Winnipeg. He told me, he says, you know what, if you're going to have a snow, he says, let's bring it on slowly. Not that we have control over that, but he said he had made a good point. The input costs for cattle producers do increase when there's snow drifts outside. The cattle are outside. They have to move the feed to the cattle and so forth. And so that does increase the input costs for a livestock producer. And but at the same time, I know a lot of producers, my friend Tom Tycrobe from Langruth, who farms or ranches about 400 and some odd cow-calf pairs. Well, he's got them spread out over land that is covered with bush. And he knows exactly where the bush is located, where he can put those cattle into shelter, because these cattle also calve. And a lot of cattle producers have their cows calving during the winter time. And so you need shelter. You don't have buildings for that. You can have a shed of some kind and put in a shelter. So snow, while so much welcomed for all producers, is also a little bit troublesome when it gets too deep for cattle producers and increases their input costs.
And talk about that just in terms of shelter. Obviously, like you said, it's a bit hard to, find good shelter at points. But, talk about how farmers can kind of compensate for that and, make the shelter that much warmer, that much better for the animals.
Last winter we had some very cold temperatures, where we went down to minus 40 with a wind chill, and that's cold no matter where that is. And the cattle, the same thing. But the first thing that Tom Tykrope told me, he said, the key thing is to feed them well. If you have great feed, they build a little more insulation. But the little calves, they have to be kept warm. So you try to put them in a sheltered area in the bush that will keep the wind out. And if you can keep the wind out, then the temperature isn't such a big deal, even though it still has to be watched. But it's when they're out in the open and the wind starts to howl, and those little noses and those little ears for those calves, they can get frostbite. And so that's where the love of being a cattle producer really comes in. You want to make sure that those cows and calves are as sheltered as possible, as no matter where. The ones that are that don't have as many, well, they don't need as much shelter. But when you're up around 400 cows and calves, and those cows basically calve every year, that's the farmer's income. And so therefore, when they have that many cattle, then they need to find bush that really sets it up properly. They can do windbreaks, they can do different things. Yeah. But that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, and if you are from Manitoba watching the show, as well as anybody that the temperatures here in Manitoba during the wintertime, they get pretty nasty, pretty cold out there sometimes reaching way above minus 40 at some points, most recently here in the country, but especially in Manitoba. But talking about something that you were speaking to me about, yesterday on text, the Saskatchewan Swine Conference. Talk about that, more in depth into what happened at the Saskatchewan Swine Conference.
It's still going on, and I'm still watching it to my left on my laptop computer. And it's called actually the official name, and I gave it to you wrong. The official name is the Saskatchewan Pork Symposium. And initially I was going to be there, and back in October, I registered to go to Saskatoon and actually take part in the conference as a journalist. Well, then not last minute, but in order to get us all off of our commitments, they switched it over to a Zoom meeting because of COVID in Saskatoon. And so I'm watching it via Zoom, and I have a screen recorder that records everything. And so yesterday we had some great presentations, very technical this morning, but then it got into some practical. But with the one that caught my attention this morning was a guy by the name of Arlen Wu. And yeah, it's Wu like in WU, Chinese American, but working in China with the hog industry with a company called Pipestone. And you know what? When we talk about sows we talked about one of the producers here in Manitoba last year, Rick Preget. Well, he has 5,000 sows together with the farmers he works with. In China, we're looking at 1 million sows. The Chinese basically have half the pigs in Canada, or in half the pigs in the world. And so this fellow is talking about 1 million sows and they're all from 3 stages. One, they're on family farms, meaning mom and dad and a child, and the pigs sometimes in the backyard and may come in and out of the house kind of thing. And I'm not belittling that, but at the same time, that's the truth. He showed pictures. And then the next one is the next level of companies. And then there's the big company, and you know what? They're raising pigs, and I don't know exactly how high, but they're into high rise for pigs. And one of those high rises, I think, was at least 10 stories high. So they have limited land, so they go up instead of sideways. And so very interesting. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I'll have more on this on the next show because I'm just going from memory of the presentation, but he talked about that COVID in China had changed the consumption of pork. And I have Dr. John Carr, who also is responsible for 150,000 sows in China. And I have a word out to him, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to talk to him. But the consumption of pork before COVID, 80% of all the protein in China was pork. And that's a lot of pork. You have 1.2.3 billion official and 2 billion unofficial, who knows how many people. And I remember years ago when somebody said, if we could just get one pork chop into every pot in a China home once a week. Well, I said that to the guy sitting beside me. He says, Harry, that's already long happened. They're eating pork. And according to Dr. John Carr and nutritionists, the pork, the way they raise it is probably John told me initially, he says it's probably their best fight against COVID is to feed people healthy meats and the nutrition, right? So, but Mr. Wu, who made the presentation, says the consumption pattern has shifted downwards. The pork price got to be so high that some of the Chinese families actually, especially in the urban centers, they started to switch to seafood, chicken, and whatever other protein. So the consumption, and it isn't such a big deal when you're looking at a small country like Canada, but when 1.3 billion people start to shift, 2 or 3% in consumption of a certain product, that's huge. And so we're going to be keeping a track on that. I love watching what's going on in China just because I have Dr. John Carr, who is a renowned livestock veterinarian consultant around the world, feeds pigs in 9 countries. I've had the privilege of meeting him 2-3 times a year since 2012, but of course not since, I think the last time I spent time with him was 2019 October at a meeting of Hams Marketing in Starbuck, Manitoba. And he made the presentation there. He hasn't been in Canada since then, but he has a lot of hog farms, especially a number of Hutterite colonies that he consults for. And so we're looking forward to where he's going to be able to come back. And the last thing he said to me, he says, Harry, says we really need to get together and have those ribs again at the keg in Winnipeg. So, so it's interesting how things happen. So that's my China pork story for the morning.
Yeah, and that is very interesting how the pork consumption just it's gone down from that 80%. Just it makes sense though with just COVID-19 and how it's had its effect across the world. Just crazy what it's done to the pork industry down there in China. But talking about it, Harry, any other stories that you're currently in the works on that you're getting started on that you could tell us about, or are you kind of bone dry in that area?
Well, it's in about an hour and a half from now, the big pea processing plant at Portage La Prairie. It's called Roquettes. It's in a European company. They're having a huge gala opening at noon. It's also, again, going to be virtual. We're going to be joining them via Zoom. So that's a pea processing plant. Green peas that farmers can raise. We don't raise a lot of them in Manitoba, but they do in Saskatchewan. They're hoping that we're going to be able to see more acres in peas here in Manitoba as well. But this plant, a minimum of $500 million, and they're employing, I forget the exact number. I'll have more on that next week. But that's the whole issue of plant protein. Where we're going. We just talked about pork being so nutritious, and well, these people are making a protein powder that's taken from peas. And yes, and so they send that over to other processors who use it for various things. One is protein for bodybuilding, but just general protein additions to various foods. You can do whatever you want with that protein powder. My only concern is when they start to talk about meatless protein burgers. That to me is a misnomer. If you're going to call it your plant protein bean burger, but don't call it meatless, because that's a misnomer. They're still trying to capitalize on the meat name. But you know what? I could get into trouble if I go any further on that one. So we'll let that be. But that plant, and I'm looking forward to it, is going to have its opening today, and they've got all kinds of things going on. So that's the story we'll follow up for next week, because I'll know more about exactly. I've interviewed several people from the plant. I have a good understanding of what they're actually doing there. But today we're going to supposedly get it from the horse's mouth and get a chance to record it as I do every one of these Zoom meetings.
Yeah, and I can't wait to hear your update on that story, Harry. Just very interesting to see what that plant is doing, and crazy how much they're worth as well. I was blown away by the number you gave me. But talking about one last thing, Harry Siemens, farming tip of the week for farmers on Siemens Says here on Rise and Shine Manitoba.
Well, it's that time of year. I mentioned last week, farmers, make sure you're taking some time off, but a lot of farmers just can't. But at the same time, watch those crops that you put into your bins, because those crops have an unreal value. When canola at one time sold for, when I farmed, $4 and $5 a bushel, it's now going as high in some areas of $23.50 a bushel. Like that's just humongous. So keep track of those crops. Make sure they don't spoil on you, because there's really no insurance when your bin turns rotten. The grain in it, I mean, when it turns rotten, it's done. You got to then take it out of there and take it to the dump, and that's a pretty costly stuff. So my tip is watch your bins, keep plugging, and make sure you get some of that rest, because it's been a hectic fall, hectic summer, and emotionally, I think that's the other part of that tip, is if you're experiencing any emotional problems, you know what? There's helplines. There's all kinds of people that are willing to listen and help.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And something, if to that point, just helpline, something that I always promote here on the show at the start of every episode, and I got it in the link in the description. Crisis Services Canada, of course. You're never alone, folks. If you need someone to talk to, you feel like you can't talk to family or friends about it, Crisis Services Canada is the place to talk about. I'm glad you brought that up, Harry, for sure. Great to hear from you again on this Wednesday morning. And you know what? We'll see you again next Wednesday. Until then, Harry, you stay safe, stay warm, as well as it's getting mighty cold out there, especially here in Manitoba.
Yeah. Somewhere, sometime, somehow, I'll see you again.
Of course. You take care, Harry. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. And Harry Siemens here on the Farm Report on this Wednesday morning on November 17th. We're going to keep this train rolling here. We're going to go to our first commercial break of the episode, and then coming back, we're going to have a chance to, well, you guys will have a chance to see an interview I did with Gordie Tumilson, goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy. He joins the show, like I said in the intro, if you guys missed that, but I'll say it again. He's going to join the show to talk about the past weekend of games for all three teams in the academy, their U15 male prep program, their U17 male prep program, and their U18 male prep program, as well as talking about this upcoming week of practice, what's been worked on already in practice, what Gordie's done with the goaltenders so far, with him being the goalie coach, and then as well as talking about the upcoming weekend of games for all three of those teams in the academy. You're watching Rise and Shine Manitoba show on ASTV Productions. Stick around for more after this commercial break.
Why go solar? Solar is better than ever. Our revolutionary design and inverter equipment with the latest in solar panel technology for the ultimate in-home and business security. That's right, I said security. Grid security and security of your home are linked. Fortify your future today with a battery backup system. No maintenance, quiet running. Did you know in Manitoba, grid-connected, off-grid, and battery backup systems are 100% right off in the year you purchase for any company or farm? Do you want to back up your internet, keep your tills running, and the lights on? We can install a system that is right for you with battery backup fully capable of taking on all those essential loads and keeping you running. When you call our experts at Evolve Green, ask about getting your free energy audit today. Call or email today to find out what system works best for you. 1-866-5EVOLVE or support@evolvegreen.ca. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.evolvegreen.ca.
Joining me now here on Rise and Shine Manitoba is Gordie Tumilson, goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, to talk about the past week/weekend of games from the academy as well as this upcoming weekend. Gordie, assuming you can hear me now, we've had some connection difficulties quite a bit before we've started off here doing this interview, but how are you doing on this Tuesday evening, joining the show once again this week here on Rise and Shine?
It's a great Tuesday. Thanks, Graeme. It's a great Tuesday evening. It's nice and crisp and clear here in Pilot-Mound at the moment. I come out on Tuesdays, as most of the people now know, on this Tuesday or Wednesday morning show. And I come out and I have a couple of practices to go to, and then we have a goalie session on the ice, and then we have a goalie meeting after we have a little supper. So, yeah, it's a good evening. Everybody's in good health. Well, we got one goalie out with a sore knee, so we're going to be a little hard pressed on the weekend for the U15s. One of our guys has got a stretched ligament, I think, maybe. But anyway, all is good other than that. So here we go.
Good to hear. Hopefully that goaltender makes a speedy recovery and is back in action soon. But talk about the goalie meetings, the practices that the academy has had so far this week.
Yeah, of course, the kids practice every day when they're not playing in a game. So that's the bonus for them. So they get 3 or 4 weekday practices depending on their travel schedule. And then on the weekend, of course, they're playing games. So they're a busy lot and whatnot. As far as the goalies are concerned, we had good practices, nice and relaxed. We've won some games. You know, it's a whole attitude thing, right? When you win some games, everybody's smiling and feeling good and going faster and trying harder, and that bodes well for the future. In the goalie meeting, we had a good session on desire and will and trying hard and not giving up and those kinds of things. That's kind of a message that we sometimes send here. So good time to send it when we're up a little bit in our emotions and we're all feeling good about what's going to happen this coming week.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about those upcoming games this week and on the weekend coming up here on this edition of this interview with you here on the show. But let's talk about the past week/weekend of games, starting off with that big win Remembrance Day last Thursday for the U17 male prep Buffaloes, winning against the Brandon Wheat Kings U17 AAA team 4-0 in that game. Miles Gordon with a shutout, Sam Takahashi with 2 goals, Last Constant and Keegan Leach with a goal for themselves. Talk about, how huge that was for them to start off their, exhibition series against Brandon with a big 4-0 win against them.
Yeah, when you don't know what the other team looks like, they wear the same colors as we do, and that's about the only thing that's the same. And it was a good, game. Our guys played really well. Miles backstopped into a shutout, which was nice. Made 28 or 29 saves, and so it was a good evening for our guys defensively. We played better defensively, and scored some goals. So kind of the perfect game for us. The weather was not very pleasant. The Brandon kids had to come in some inclement weather, but they managed to get to Pilot Mound and managed to get back home that evening. So that was a good thing.
Yeah, great to know that they were able to get back home safe and they were able to get to Brandon safely on that for that Saturday game. But before we move into that Saturday matchup that they had against Brandon, where they ended up tying that game, talk about Miles Gordon, his performance on that Remembrance Day game against the Brandon Vikings U17 team.
Yeah, Miles was he was just steady and go. It wasn't a lot of really tough shots. We're used to getting a lot more tough, the degree of difficulty that our kids have faced has been almost insurmountable. The tough shots that they've had to play against, the close-in shots, the breakaways, all kinds of good stuff like that. And he didn't have much of that. He had some good shots. He was just steady. He was calm in goal. He was making one save, and then the boys were clearing the rebounds, and he was able to, jump on some rebounds. So, all things being said, it was a good, steady effort for Miles, and he was full marks for the win and the shutout.
Now moving into Saturday's matchup, the team, like we mentioned before, like you mentioned, traveled to Brandon, tied that game 6-6 in that exhibition game. A huge second period for the team as they scored 4 goals, and then a bit of a letdown in that third period as they still scored 2 goals, but Brandon scoring 3 goals of their own in the third to end up making this game finish in a tie 6-6. Talk about that game, the effort, the game that was played out there from the Buffaloes, what it led to that 6-6 tie in that game.
Yeah, of course, you go from 4-0 to 6-6. I mean, what the heck's going on? We had a different goalkeeper in, Kean Hodgins, and I asked him twice. I asked him after the game when he was driving on the bus, and then I questioned him today at practice about what kind of goals they were scoring on him. He said, Coach, I couldn't do much about any of them. They were just the way they were. And once in a while I get 1 or 2 of those, but basically, I conferred with the other goalies and the coaches. He had a good game. So it wasn't the goalkeeper. It was kind of I think Coach McConnell said clearly and concisely, it was more like pond hockey. Nobody was doing anything right and everybody was doing everything wrong. And a lot of shots and pucks going in the net, and that's the way it goes sometimes. And a lot of fun for the fans, I guess. 6-6, and unfortunately, Brandon scored with less than a second to go in the game, so it didn't turn out well for us. But at the end of the day, it was good. We got back home in bad weather again on Saturday. That was the most important part of this whole trip, was to get there. It took 3 hours, which is normally a 2-hour trip. And again, it took 3 hours to get home again, going pretty slow and easy on some of Manitoba's more snowy roads out here in rural Western Manitoba.
Yeah, and our broadcast crew experienced that on the weekend, just the bad roads not letting us get out to Pilot-Mound to cover the U15 team. But, sticking with the U17 team here, there was, some things to like from their offense, obviously. A lot of depth in terms of scoring. There was 5 different goal scorers in this game. Talking about how nice it is to see that the depth is really coming through for this Buffaloes team in, this part of the season.
Yeah, we're not an offensive juggernaut. We don't have a lot of guys who are natural goal scorers. So they have to work really hard to get, the puck to the net and then get it in the net. And quite often they're hitting the darn goalie or shooting wide. So it was nice to see, a bunch of different guys score. It gets a little bit of a monkey off their back, and as the folks will say, and it makes everybody feel like they contributed to the game. Now, that's always important. It's a confidence thing, right? You score a goal, you feel better about yourself, and then you back check, you make a good play on the back check, and that makes you feel better. And so that goes on and on. It's a snowball thing to the good for a change. We've had the snowball effect going backwards with some of the poor play we've had, or the more challenging games we've had. This time around, we've had, we scored 10 goals in 2 games. That's a lot of goals for us. And that's pleasing for everybody on the team, for sure.
Moving into the U15s now, of course, both of their games this past weekend were supposed to be showed here on ASTV Productions, but due to the weather not allowing us to get out to broadcast those games and not allowing those games to be broadcasted in general, just because the feed sucked, put it simply like that. But, going up against Prairie Hockey Academy, they played them twice the weekend before. This time, they split once again, the winning a game on Saturday, losing on Sunday, winning 4-3 on Saturday. Starting off with that one, Keen Reed getting the start. He faced 42 shots, only allowed 3 goals, making 39 saves. Just the performance from Mr. Keen Reed in that 4-3 win for this Buffaloes team, this U15 team over Prairie Hockey Academy this past Saturday.
Yeah, the Keener, as the boys call him, was really steady and made a couple of really nice saves as well in his game. And when our team plays, it's amazing. It's just the way hockey is. If the team plays well and you get some decent goaltending, you're going to win a lot of games. And that's what Keen Reed did this past weekend. He gave our guys a chance to win on Saturday. We scored some goals and we did, and we played good defense as well. So even though we had 40 shots, and we talk about that, I mean, we're not getting 60 shots now. We're getting 40 shots, and our goalies are certainly, quite capable of handling 40 shots now that they've seen 60 or 70 in games, and in a lot of games. So it's kind of a quiet game for them, only 40 shots, and so. We played well. He played well. He played steady. And, again, you're going to win some games that way. And we did that particular game for sure.
Dive more into just how the team was in front of them, how they performed out in front of him to be able to get the 4-3 win out there against Prairie Hockey Academy on Saturday.
Yeah, these guys are starting to come along, as all of our teams are. The neat part is we're starting to win some games. We're playing against some competition that we're a little bit more attuned with. But, they're starting to look like they've played the game together more and they're understanding whatever systems the coaches are working on. Those are really important things. People are in the right place at the right time. We're not doing it all the time. And that happened in the second game. We got a little carried away sometimes with some success on Saturday. We didn't play as well on Sunday. But basically, when we play well, when we just do our jobs, don't try and do somebody else's job, don't get too crazy, trying to go too fast, trying to do things that we shouldn't be doing, we're okay. When we start to get carried away with sort of our own success and whatnot, we sometimes forget, what our jobs are and what we're supposed to do. So, but the kids played a good solid game. It was just a good solid hockey game, 4-3 win. Thank you very much. We're going home.
Yeah, and great to always start off the weekend with a win, but, got to continue it into the next game, and they weren't able to do that. Like you said, might have got a bit carried away with their success from that Saturday game, not able to replicate it on Sunday as they lost 6-3. Looking at it, Prairie outscored them in the first and second period, obviously getting the 6-3 win. Keene was in net once again. But, talking about that game, what Prairie Hockey Academy did so well to be able to take advantage of Pilot-Mound Hockey Academy's game that they were putting out there to end up getting that 6-3 win for Prairie.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, their team played better on Sunday, not as well on Saturday. Our team played better on Saturday, and so the better playing team wins the game, right? You score 3 goals against each of those two teams, and you win the game because the other team isn't playing very good, and they give up more goals. And so it's just, I think it's the sort of the level of play of that particular age group. The quality of players that are on the teams they're not quite mature yet. They haven't played as much hockey as some of the older teams and older kids have. So they just don't settle in on consecutive days. We had the same goalkeeper in who pretty much played the same way, and he got kind of a little pat on the back for playing really well the last couple of times he's been in goal. So they gave him a second chance, but his team wasn't able to support him, and that's what the coaches are looking for. They're looking for everybody on the team to be consistent. And for the goalies, we're looking for high level of consistency. For the rest of the kids, we're looking for consistency from game to game. Just be consistent, be good. You can be really good if you want, but be good, and we're going to be okay because some of the kids will pick us up a little bit better than some of the others.
Moving into the U18 program now, and a weekend of success for them. Even though they dropped their first 2 games of their stay in Calgary, they ended up winning the last 2 games against the Rink 4-3 and against Delta 4-3. Just to see this U18 program have more success than they have had in the past, most recently, and just more success than they've had in a while this past week/weekend in Calgary. How nice was that to see them come away with 2 wins after dropping the first 2 in close ones this past weekend in Calgary?
Yeah, in terms of the weekend in Calgary, I mean, the girls, they did lose the first 2 games, but they came back and they hung in there. They just kept playing. The third game was against the RHA rink team from Winnipeg. And we weren't looking forward to that one to go into the game just because the rink has played pretty well against us, and we've been skunked a couple of times by them. But as it turns out, our girls showed some fortitude. The goalkeeper in the other team wasn't very good at the beginning of the game. We got a couple of weaker goals, I guess, got us going, and then that just charged our people up, and we got some steady goaltending, some timely goaltending from River Johnston, and we were able to hang on and come up with a nice win. And again, we don't have a bunch of goal scorers on this team, so doing the right things at the right time really helped us get better and win that hockey game.
And talk about just dive more into those good things that this Buffaloes team was doing in those games that they played in Calgary, especially in those last 2 games. As like mentioned before, they got the wins against the Rink 4-3 and against Delta Hockey-Academy 4-3 to close out their weekend in Calgary.
Yeah, we didn't play poorly in the games that we lost, and so the girls are getting better, like we said they would. I mean, we go back to September and we go, this doesn't look very good right now, but give us a couple of months. And they'll come, their skills weren't quite there. They weren't in shape at that time. We're in better condition. We're certainly passing the puck better, sensing where the other people are going to be. The lines are starting to click together. All of that's, started to come together. We've had a couple of new players come on the team. We were short a couple. So that's kind of helped us up. This ramped up our offense and our defense a little bit. So, yeah, all in all, I mean, everything's starting to fall into place, and that's a bonus. And it's supposed to, and it does. That's just the way hockey or any team sport is. If the kids work at it, they're dedicated. Coaches certainly are capable, and trying not to be too frustrated at the beginning, so that we can sort of keep things on an even keel, and get to this time of year where we can see some of the results of hard work, hard practice, and the girls starting to get together on some things.
Yeah, and nice to see the U18s have some success in Calgary, especially after that exhibition game that they had against Pembina Valley last Sunday, when they probably had their worst effort of the season to that point. So nice to see that they were able to have some type of success in Calgary this past weekend. Before we get into the weekend of games coming up for these teams in the academy, just dive into, what's going to be worked on, what you've heard might be worked on for all 3 of these programs, the U15, the U17, and U18 programs this week coming up in practice.
Well, I know practices they're all different. And it's really interesting. I get to go on the ice with all 3 teams, which for me is a bonus because I get to watch all 3 different coaching staffs, and they're all in a different mode. They're all in a different time and space in terms of where their teams are at. The coaches all have different sort of ideologies and philosophies of how to coach, although they fit in with the Pilot-Mound envelope. That it's a movable thing, and it really is unique to be able to kind of be involved in all of that. The girls team, they continue to work on a lot of passing, a lot of sort of offensive stuff. They've got the defensive end of the rink figured out pretty much for the most part. Breakouts are still an issue, but we're getting better at those. But we're trying to turn some of our time to offense, and Coach Brad and Cassidy are working on that for sure. Of course, the goalies are always doing whatever they're doing. That's my thing. So And then we get to the U15 boys. I'll see them tomorrow morning, but I know that they're continuing to work on their breakout is kind of an important part of the game, defensive strategy. So it's a little bit more on the defensive side, and some of the specialty teams things. And then there's the U17s who've got they're working on. Today they were working on support, just supporting the guy with the puck or supporting the forechecker with another guy, learning that, getting that figured out so that we've got two guys on the puck and rather than one when we're forechecking. So it's more of a forecheck thing rather than trying to score goals. And of course, you score goals off a good forecheck, right? So Coach Sutherland was working with them specifically on that today and on a lot of that today. Then, of course, there's skating and staying in shape, getting in better shape because we need to be in better shape. We need to be able to go full out right to the end of the game so that we can compete with anybody.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Great to know that these teams are really keen in on the things that they need to work on most getting ready to, potentially have more success for these programs heading into the weekend. And let's talk about this upcoming weekend for these three programs. Who's going to be in action? Where will they be playing? Who will they be playing? Talk about, what's going to be coming up this weekend for the Academy's three teams.
Well, they're all away, so we had to go get another bus. We've got two team buses, and we don't have enough buses, so we had to go get another bus. But anyway, the girls are going to be playing in Winnipeg twice. They play against the rink twice, Saturday evening and then Sunday in the late morning. So they're going to play their nemesis at the rink, and that's okay. That's always good competition, and when we're forced to play our best games if we want to. Goalies always like a lot of shots, so they get their wish comes true. The U17 boys, they have two games as well on the weekend. They're going all the way to Calgary to play two games, which is unfortunate due to the situation a couple of weeks ago at our showcase. There was some games missed and other teams played extra games and blah, blah, blah. We're only able to get two games in this weekend. Unfortunately, we would like to have played at least three and maybe four if we could have, but that didn't work out that way. So long way to go for two games, but we'll get a chance to play against Edge and IHA again. So that's always good for our team. And then the U15s have a busy weekend. They've got 5 games scheduled, 3 round robin, and then 2 playoff games. Doesn't matter where they finish, they'll play 2 playoff games. They'll play a Thursday night game, 2 Friday, and then a game Saturday and a game Sunday morning. So they'll be busy. And that's where our goalie is hurt. Keane Reed strained his knee walking to school. Unfortunately, slipped on the ice and kind of tweaked his knee a little bit. So he's kind of hobbling. Might not be, probably isn't going to play. And so we're going to find that out. He's been seeing some physio. He's using crutches at the moment, although that's more for safety reasons. So Pete, is going to be our guy for the maybe all 5 games. We're looking for a backup guy who probably won't play, and that's fine. So Pete's gonna have a tough day on Friday if he has to play Thursday night, and then Friday morning again, Friday afternoon, but we'll see how things go. And for him, it's my instruction to him was fun. Don't worry about how many games, what it's all about. Just make one save at a time and feel good about that. And don't worry about wins and losses. You go and do the best you can. Try and stay healthy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Going to be a lot of games, a lot of opportunity for Pete Moreau to get some playing time this weekend coming up. Hoping that Keane Reed has a speedy recovery and he's back soon for this program. And yeah, wow, what a busy weekend coming up for this U15 program, as well as the other team's going to be in action as they'll get some playing time as well. But Gordie will be talking about all those games coming up next week on Rise and Shine Manitoba. Best of luck to all of the teams in the Academy coming up this weekend and /week. And you, Gordie, stay safe out there. Take care, and we'll see you next week here on Rise and Shine Manitoba. Thanks for joining the show once again this week.
Thanks, Graeme. Always a pleasure.
And Gordie Tumilson, goalie, coach, and marketing director of Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, joining the show here on this Wednesday morning episode, of course, joining the show in a pre-recorded interview last night. as we always do with Gordie, just due to his connection difficulties that he's had when he's tried to join the show here on these Wednesday mornings, as you guys have might have seen in the past. But yeah, all three programs for the Academy in action this weekend. You guys can check out when those games will be played if you're interested on Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy's website at pilotmoundhockeyacademy.com. Coming up after the commercial break, we're going to dive into the weekly segment here, my segment in Graeme's opinion, where we're going to break down the Winnipeg Jets versus Oilers game that happened last night. Gonna give a rant on a video I saw put out by Sportsnet, and also I'm gonna tell you guys about what my favorite part of the snow is here. What comes with that. So stay tuned for that after this next commercial break here on Manitoba Show, Rise and Shine Manitoba on ASTV Productions.
Earthsaver. We at Smiley Worms would like to introduce you to our original vermicompost idea. If you're here looking at this, you probably know vermicompost is the best natural soil amendment man or nature has created. The big idea was the Earthsaver. Everything in this bag was kept out of landfills and pre-composted and fed to our worms. Canadians send an average of 720 kilograms per person of organic waste to the landfill each year. We found this alarming. Many Canadians realize it's a problem, but do not have a solution. Most people do not compost. You can be a part of the solution. Buy a bag of Earthsaver to feed your healthy soil. We can only guarantee this. We kept it out of the landfill, your worms ate it, and your plants will love it. These will be great for your home, garden project, or even a fundraiser. Still not convinced? Send us an email. We'll send you a free sample. You'll love it. This is work and product we're most proud of. One last thing. We're located in Manitoba. If we're too far from you, contact us anyway. We may know someone. Worm farmers are awesome breed.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Manitoba here on ASTV Productions Manitoba Show, of course, brought to you by Evolve Green AETi, and a new sponsor that we use today. We've used it in the past, but I decided to use it again today, Smiley Worms, as you guys just saw in that last commercial break, their commercial airing here on Manitoba Show. And now it's time to get into this week's edition of Graeme's Opinion. Some good stuff that is going to be talked about in this segment today. I'm not going to talk about Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy. My plan was to talk about the U15 program, but of course, as you guys might know, we were unable to make it out to Pilot-Mound this weekend due to the snowstorm, due to the road conditions here in Manitoba. It was crazy. If you guys were out in rural Manitoba, the Morris area, Low Farm, Kane, Manitoba, places like that. I'm not sure what it was like in Winnipeg, my hometown, because I was out in Morris for this weekend with my boss, Glenn Munford, as we usually drive to the games together. But unfortunately, due to the weather conditions, we're unable to get to Pilot-Mound, Manitoba at Blackjack Stewart Arena. And yeah, we weren't even able to broadcast the games with them using an iPad there because the connection was just so bad. So coming, I guess not next week on the show, but the week after, we'll most likely talk about the Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy team. And if they're not in action, I'm forgetting off the top of my head what the schedule is going to be like for us in the upcoming weekend. Next weekend, of course, no games for us being broadcasted on the weekend here. So it's a bit of a different weekend here on the network. But yeah, again, going to find a solution to, break down a team's weekend on the network out of whoever plays. Not this weekend coming up, but the next weekend after that. So let's get into the first thing we're going to talk about. First thing I'm going to talk about, the Winnipeg Jets and Edmonton Oilers game recap from last night. Of course, the Winnipeg Jets with a big 5-2 win over the Edmonton Oilers. Winnipeg was up 4-0 after 2 periods. For the Oilers, their 2 goals came on the power play. First on a 5-on-3 and then on a 5-on-4 after that. Second goal was reviewed for goaltender interference, but was later called back and ruled a goal because the player got pushed in. I forget who got pushed into the net, but I think it was Jesse Puljujärvi who got pushed in. So the refs decided to go another way and give Edmonton that second goal. Both of those power play goals, both those goals for Edmonton were scored by Leon Draisaitl, who is leading the league right now in both points and goals. And just in terms of the shots, it was pretty close, pretty even. 35-34 in favor in shots for Winnipeg, 12-9 for them in the first, 14-11 for them in the second period, and then for the Edmonton Oilers, they outshot the Jets 14-9 in the third period. In terms of power plays, the Edmonton Oilers were 2 for 4 on the man advantage, and the Jets were 1 for 4 on the man advantage. And just looking at the 3 stars, I took these off of the Score. It's a sports app that I use to, look at stats. If you guys want to check it out, you don't just you're not just able to look at NHL stats, but you're able to look at many other leagues as well, NFL, NBA, MLB, CFL, any league you can really think about. You can look at the scores, the stats, the news, the headlines on the Score app. But just looking at it on the Score, they had Josh Morrissey as the 3rd star, Connor Hellebuyck as the 2nd star, and Pierre-Luc Dubois as the 1st star. I would put Hellebuyck as the 1st star in that game. I felt like he was the difference for the Jets in that game, even though the Jets were producing well in the offensive zone. But Connor Hellebuyck in this game, 32 saves on 34 shots faced, .941 save percentage, which is absolutely phenomenal. But let's take a look at what the NHL app had for the stars in that game. Just looking at it here, let's see. Yeah, it was exactly that. So it was the same stars. Yeah, even though Pierre-Luc Dubois ended up scoring the game winner in that game as he scored the 3rd goal of the game on that tip, I feel like Connor Hellebuyck a bit more deserving of that 1st star just because of how big he came up at points in that game. He looked pretty darn solid. Of course, the 2 goals that he let up, one was awesome one-timer from Leon Draisaitl, and the second one, he got interfered with, even though it was called back, and I get it, because Jesse Puljujärvi got pushed into the net. I think it might have been Logan Stanley. I'm not too sure who pushed him in to the crease to not allow Hellebuyck to have some movement, but really both of those goals pretty hard for Hellebuyck to stop. Other than that, he was fantastic in that game. But let's break it down. The Jets really looked good in the O-zone in this game, whether it be on the forecheck, the puck movement, and just finding the open space for those players off the puck to get open and create opportunities for them to receive those passes. The Jets looked really, really good in the offensive zone, as well as getting to the net, getting tips as well, creating traffic in front of Koskinen. And it was a really good performance from Winnipeg, and just the Jets entering the zone with speed, utilizing their speed to the best of their abilities in this game, really driving the Edmonton Oilers defense back, and at a lot of points, this team gaining a step or two on the Oilers defense and getting past them and getting opportunities for them to score. Jets were also getting in the shot lanes as well. A lot of blocks for the Jets in this game, making it difficult at times for Edmonton to get shots on net, and made it really difficult for the Oilers to enter the zone at points in this game, aggressive in the neutral zone as well as aggressive at their own blue line. Edmonton started to have more success entering the zone as the game went along. But for the most part, the Jets doing a really good job of being aggressive at that blue line, not making it easy for the Oilers to enter the zone cleanly. Looking at it, I think the difference in this game for the Jets was the play of Connor Hellebuyck. He's really coming into his own, proving that he is one of the best goaltenders in this league. Just phenomenal year in and year out how Hellebuyck has been able to look for the Jets. But looking at the Edmonton Oilers in this game, the Oilers, they worked it around well on the power play. I mean, on that 5-on-3, they really took advantage of the Jets being down 2 men, and McDavid doing a really good job of getting the puck, aware that Draisaitl was open, ready for that one-timer on that first goal. McDavid also, looked really impressive in this game. Still, his speed, his playmaking, just on another level. Breaking into the zone on one play in particular where he, burned through the offensive zone and saw a guy that was, at the side of the net, passed across crease, and just Connor Hellebuyck coming up huge on that one. But McDavid on the power play, realizing that he's most likely going to have time and space every single time. Just phenomenal how he's able to recognize that he has that time and space and able to have that puck poise and, wait for his opening to happen. He was also really putting good shots on net as well. And as that game went along, entering the zone really well and making that quick pass, his teammates were spread out really well. But yeah, Oilers moved it around well in the offensive zone too, I found. But the Jets in this game really being aggressive, pressuring the men, having active sticks in the lanes and really getting in shot lanes to block those shots, and just a really good performance from the Winnipeg Jets in this game, beating one of the top teams in the league at this point in the year. And for the Jets, even though Scheifele had a goal, he hasn't been that guy that's been scoring the goals, and he hasn't been that guy that's usually been the key offensive player for this team. It's been guys like PLD, it's been guys like Kyle Connor, who's been one of the best goal scorers in the league so far this season. Nikolai Ehlers had an absolute bomb. Our defense are also producing good offense. Guys like Josh Morrissey and Neil Pionk. Sweet feed, by the way, by Josh Morrissey, realizing that on that goal that was scored by PLD that ended up being the game winner, realizing that there's a guy in the lane, knowing that he's probably not going to get an effective shot on net, ends up passing it through the legs of an Edmonton defender and finding the stick of PLD, an absolute beauty. But yeah, overall in that game, Winnipeg doing a great job in the offensive zone, looking solid in the defensive zone as well, and really pressuring good in the neutral zone. And like I said, at the blue line to make it difficult for the Oilers to enter the zone at points. Connor Hellebuyck, I'll say it again, was phenomenal in this game. And the only issue the Jets had was on the PK, as they let up both of those goals on PK, just kind of getting sucked into the play, being aggressive, yes, but not being quite, neutral on the power play as well, if that makes sense. More chasing the puck around, and really Edmonton, a team like that can move that puck around the way they do at a high level, is going to make you pay for it. And they were able to suck in Winnipeg players on that PK that they had. Although, be it the Jets had some good opportunities shorthanded in that game. That opportunity by Kyle Connor, where that puck ended up getting transitioned out of the zone nicely by the Jets. Andrew Kopp able to, almost break away from McDavid, but he gets an opportunity to put that puck on net. And yeah, only thing that was wrong in the Jets game yesterday, and only thing that was a disadvantage for them, was that penalty kill. But it's been off all season long. The penalty kill for the Jets hasn't looked the greatest this season, but that's definitely something that you'd think they'd have to be looking to clean up. So overall, great offensive performance by this Winnipeg Jets team. A pretty solid defensive performance as well. Played well in almost every single aspect of the game, except for the penalty kill, and Connor Hellebuyck just having a phenomenal performance in that game as well. And looking at it now, The Jets, with that win, moving into first place in the Central Division by 1 point with a 9-3-3 record. The Edmonton Oilers are now second in the Pacific, as the Anaheim Ducks have taken a hold of first place by 1 point. Looking at it for the Winnipeg Jets, their upcoming games are going to be coming Thursday, another not at home, but on the road against the Edmonton Oilers, and then they're right back at it against the Vancouver Canucks on the road on Friday. They play Pittsburgh on Monday, and then they play the Columbus Blue Jackets next week on Wednesday. So the next game I'll be breaking down here from the Winnipeg Jets will be against the Pittsburgh Penguins next week on the show in that Tuesday game that Winnipeg is going to have against them. So let's move into reaction from a video that I saw now put out by Sportsnet. And this is a video that I saw yesterday, popped up on my Instagram feed. I had to look at it on YouTube after because I couldn't find it on Instagram after. It's called Why Your Team Won't Win the Stanley Cup. Basically, why your favorite team won't win the Stanley Cup. It was a video done by Jillian Fisher. I'm going to link it to you guys in the description of this episode after this episode is done airing, after I'm finished here on this episode. And yeah, just some really bad, stupid takes. And just got to ask Sportsnet, what are you doing? Why would you employ this person to talk about hockey? She didn't seem like she was pretty vague in her descriptions and her takes, and didn't really give a lot of substance. But for the take she gave, I picked out a select number of takes that she gave. I'm gonna give my thoughts on them and why they're stupid. And yeah, here we go. I guess this is this week's rant. So starting off with Carolina, she said, as long as you avoid the Panthers meaning in playoff time, you should be okay. Well, I got two things for that. Well, one, they played each other once this season, and yes, the Florida Panthers won 5-2. Two, it's a very long season. And three, Carolina is one of the deepest teams in this league. Even though they lost Dougie Hamilton on that D-core, this is one of the best, arguably the best D-core in the NHL. Their forwards, they got so much depth up front, so many weapons up front, and their goaltending has been great too. Like, them going against the Florida Panthers, I feel like come playoff time, Carolina could be one of those teams that could beat them because of just how deep this team is and how good this team is from top to bottom. So I thought that was a pretty stupid take. It was pretty vague. As long as you avoid the Panthers, you should be okay. Like I've said, they've literally played once this season. And yes, the Panthers beat them 5-2, but it's literally early on in the season. I just didn't understand that. But going to the St. Louis Blues, your record is inflated based off of the teams you've played and beat. And when Winnipeg is the best team that you've played, there's reason to believe that this could come crashing down. Now, I'm a Winnipeg Jets fan. As you guys know, I've stated that many times in the past, and we're going to pick that apart right there. When the best team you played is Winnipeg, no, when Winnipeg is the best team you've played, there's reason to believe that this could come crashing down. So she's discrediting the Winnipeg Jets, which is stupid because they've literally been one of the best teams in the league so far this season. Just looking at the stats, they're top 10 in goals for. They've improved massively defensively, 39 goals against, and they got depth and scoring throughout the lineup. They got one of the best goaltenders in the league. So to knock the St. Louis Blues for playing the Winnipeg Jets, as like saying that if that's the best team you've played, you're going to be in trouble. That's just a ridiculous take for many, many reasons that I just listed, because the Jets have been, in fact, playing like one of the best teams in the NHL. Looking at this one, the Anaheim Ducks. Who the heck is Troy Terry, and where did he come from? Now, look, Troy Terry, a 5th-round pick. He's been absolutely phenomenal this season. He is truly breaking out. he is still on a point streak. I forget what number of games now, but it's in the double digits. He is top 5 in goals in the league so far this season. And I guess Jillian did not watch the World Juniors that one year where he scored about like 4 or 5 goals in that shootout against Canada in that gold medal game. But I get it in a way because Troy Terry, he's finally breaking out. He's finally coming into his own in the NHL. I think it's probably the biggest surprise of the season so far. But to say who the heck is Troy Terry and where did he come from is just so disrespectful on so many levels, even though he's a 5th round pick. Like, if you don't know who Troy Terry is, I guess you don't watch much hockey outside of the NHL there, Jillian. The Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, you still haven't shown a ton of life against those heavy hitters. Now, I don't know what she exactly means by heavy hitters. And yes, they've, the teams that are considered heavy hitters like Tampa and Boston, like for Tampa as well as Vegas, like Vegas was missing Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty, which is pretty massive. And Tampa is missing Nikita Kucherov. But like, for their win against Tampa, they beat this team in extra time, not in regulation. Tampa, even though they don't have Kucherov, like this was still considered one of the best teams in the league last season, even when they did not have Nikita Kucherov. Like this team last year was considered the cup favorite for a lot of people. A lot of people had them winning the cup, even when Kucherov was not in the lineup. So that's just a stupid take in itself. Tampa is still one of the most complete teams in this league from top to bottom, even though they lost a lot of depth this year in the off season. Like this team still has Braden Point, Steven Stamkos, Andre Palat, Victor Hedman, Sergachev, Andre Vasilevsky. Now, to be fair, like I didn't look back on the stats and see what other guys are out except for Kucherov in that game, but I'm assuming that they had Victor Hedman. I know that because I have him in fantasy hockey. They still have Steven Stamkos and Braden Point in that game, and Andre Vasilevsky is just a stupid, crappy take in my opinion. And they've also beaten Boston, and they've beaten a team like the Philadelphia Flyers, who is near the top of their division so far this year in the Metropolitan Division. And they beaten Calgary, who has also been one of the top teams in the league. So even if you're not considering teams like Calgary and Flyers as those heavy hitters, quote unquote, I'm not exactly sure what she means about that. How do you defy that at this point in the season? But let's go with historically Tampa and Boston are heavy hitters. Even though Tampa didn't have Nikita Kucherov, they're still, like I said, a very complete team and arguably one of the best teams in the league. And Toronto was able to beat them, and Boston, like they beat them too. And Boston's traditionally been considered a heavy hitter. Like this is just such a dumb and lazy take by her, and I just don't understand it. This one kind of cracks me up. For the Tampa Bay Lightning, your power play without Kucherov is abysmal, and there's no guarantee that it bounces back with him in the lineup. Why should we not expect that this won't happen, that it will bounce back after what happened in the playoffs last season when Kucherov came back and just was a weapon on that power play? And that power play was like the best power play or one of the best power plays in the playoffs. Like, why shouldn't we expect that? I just don't understand that. It's another lazy take. It's just something she, tried to find criticism for this Tampa Bay Lightning team. Like, just this whole concept of this video is so stupid because it's so early on in the season, and Sportsnet must really be desperate for content right now, and they're trying to, do the best they can to get different content out. But this just isn't it. Let's look at the Winnipeg Jets take now. You have yet to beat a top tier team. You haven't played many either, but that makes sense. So, or no, you have yet to beat a top tier team. You haven't played many either, but that makes this worse. Let's go. I got 3 points for this. It's way too early in the season. So what's the point of this argument? And 2, they are capable of beating teams. I know this video was made before the Edmonton Oilers game, but they literally just went out and beat Edmonton, who's been a top tier team this season. And they've also beat Anaheim, who was first in the Pacific Division and is having an impressive season and is playing like one of the top tier teams in the league because they've beaten top tier teams in the league. Like, I don't understand it. They just went out and beat Washington, who is a top tier team in this league so far this year. Like, I don't understand it. Like, she just must hate the Winnipeg Jets. I know I'm a Winnipeg Jets fan, but like, even if I wasn't, this is just a brutal, dumb, lazy take once again. Let's move on to the Washington Capitals. Her criticism was too much attention on Ovi right now. Well, one, why is that a bad thing? He's literally one of, if not, like, in my opinion, I think he is the greatest goal scorer of all time, the greatest goal scoring talent of all time. And to be honest, like, if there's too much attention on Ovi right now, how is that a bad thing? And overall, this team has been one of the best defensive teams in the league at this point in the season. Like, before yesterday, they had 36 goals against, which is fifth least in the National Hockey League. It's just, oh my goodness, this is just, it's painful. It's painful reading these. Like, I feel like I'm losing brain cells, to be honest, just reading these. Let's go with this last one. This one just shows that she obviously didn't watch last season for the Nashville Predators. Will Saros, UC Saros, their goaltender, be able to be a full-time starter, or will he burn out? Well, Jillian, he's definitely capable, and he showed it last season. He was sixth in Vezina voting, and this guy has shown that he was elite last season. He was probably the biggest reason why Nashville even made it to the playoffs, made it to the dance. It's just, it's mind-boggling. Like, man, it's, I can believe this video when I saw it, when I started hearing her talk. Just some people should not talk about sports, and Jillian Fisher is one of those people, based off of the things that I told you guys about today. If you guys want to check out the full video, I'll leave I'll leave the link in the description of this episode. It's just, I was blown away by this. It's so fun to clown on Toronto. And she did even point out that she could have been lazy and went with, first round exit, which would have been better than what she said, because they haven't shown a ton of life against heavy hitters. Like, I can believe that. When they played a team like Tampa, like, yes, they're undermanned, a team like Boston, a team like the Flyers, and a team like Calgary, and they'd beaten those teams. And even though Vegas was undermanned too, like, they beat Vegas, who was considered a heavy hitter. They've been a heavy hitter for ever since they've been in the league. So yeah, this is just, yeah, I was blown away by this. Sportsnet, like, you literally are one of the top media outlets in the country for sports, and you're employing people like this. They also employ someone like Steve Dangle, who I also think is not very smart. I just feel like he's a big personality, but that's just my personal take on it. That's going to do it for today's rant on Graeme's opinion. Let's turn over to something that I want to talk about. With the snow, I'm looking out the window right now. It's clear that the snow is here to stay for the foreseeable future here, as the months go along here, going into, the winter months like December, January, and February. But I got to thinking what my favorite part of the snow is, and I'll give you three things in particular. Just first off, I just like the way the snow looks. Even though it gets really cold out here, like, I can handle the cold if you bundle up. But yeah, just really, really nice looking. Like, that first snowfall of the year is so satisfying seeing it. And that has one of my favorite parts, is just looking at how different everything looks outside, how beautiful everything looks outside, because in my opinion, snow really does look beautiful. It's got a nice look to it. There's just something about it. I can't describe it, but just knowing that Christmas is on its way when snow falls. Like, Christmas, my favorite holiday out there. I know many people will agree with that Christmas is the best. You get up early in the morning on Christmas morning, you open up your presents. More of the thrill of it when you're a kid, but really just means that you get to spend time with family and the people that you love. And can't wait to spend it this year with my girlfriend, Laura Prokop, which we didn't have a chance to do last year because of the restrictions that were put in due to COVID-19. Crossing my fingers that something like that doesn't happen again where there's restrictions, knock on wood. But yeah, just Christmas time, all the great food that you get, the presents that you get, getting to spend time with family. Like, there's no better part about it. Another thing, two things actually. One, just getting to get out on the ODRs, which ODR stands for the outdoor rink. Me growing up playing hockey, I know many hockey players, almost all hockey players. Let's just say every hockey player will agree with this, that the ODR hitting the pond, there's just something different, something special about that. And with snow, it just means that the outdoor rinks, the workers at the outdoor rinks around the city here in Winnipeg and just across the world that has snow and they're able to do it, are going to start flooding the rinks, making the ice, and then you can enjoy, a good time on the ice. There's nothing better than just feeling the cold wind in your face, in my opinion, while you're skating on ice, the beautiful ponds out here, especially in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And yeah, the ODR is just amazing to skate on in the winter months. Hopefully, ODR season lasts longer than last year, as the snow went away a bit earlier last year. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year. But yeah, getting out on the ODR, whether it's just you're shooting around, you can play pickup games, you can play one-on-ones, 2v2s, or you could even get the whole rink involved, everybody on the rink, and you can play in a big pickup game. Like, there's nothing better than that as a hockey player, in my opinion, someone that loves hockey. But last thing is just the best hockey tournament of the year, my favorite hockey that is played. And I know that a lot of people agree with this, is just the World Juniors. Boxing Day means that the World Juniors, it's going to be here, on Boxing Day. That just means when the snow falls, it just means it's closer to that best time of the year, seeing the best U20s in the world go at it, from countries from Canada, USA, Russia, Sweden, Finland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, sometimes even Denmark, Germany as well, Belarus, the list goes on and on, to see the best U20s in the world go at it, going for gold medal, representing their country. It's just the best time of the year to see, the future stars potentially of tomorrow, and that could be playing in the NHL. So when the snow falls, it just means that that time of the year is that much closer. So yeah, that's why I love the snow. My favorite parts of the snow, all the things I mentioned before. Let me know down in the comments below what your favorite part of the snow is. I know a lot of people hate the snow as well. They're not a fan of it. So let me know in the comments why you either love the snow, the reasons why you like it, or why you love it, or the reasons why you dislike it, or just flat out hate it. Let me know in the comments down below your guys' thoughts on that on our Facebook stream, as well as on our YouTube. And you can also comment on our Twitter as well, where this episode is airing. But yeah, that's going to do it for this edition of Rise and Shine Manitoba, everybody, Manitoba Show. I've been your host, Graeme Forsyth. The next edition of Manitoba Show comes next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Time. Be sure to tune in on Facebook, on our website at astvproductions.com, our Facebook, ASTV Productions, as well as our Twitter at Amateur Sports TV at 10 a.m. Central Time. Next Wednesday, you're going to have another edition of the Farm Report. Going to be joined by Gordie Tumilson again, and hoping to be joined by some other guests in that episode. Be sure to stay tuned next week coming up to see who the guests will be, the guest reveal of who will be in the next edition of Rise and Shine Manitoba, on our Instagram at ASTV Productions, on our Facebook, and on our Twitter as well. Also, if you guys enjoy Graeme's Opinion, the segment that I do here at the end of every single episode of Rise and Shine Manitoba, let me know in the comments what you guys would like me to talk about, maybe react to a story. I'd love to hear you guys' input. I'd love to hear what you guys would like me to talk about. So yeah, that's going to do it, folks. Until then, have a wonderful, until next Wednesday, Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday today. Did I say Monday or Wednesday? I'm pretty sure I said next Wednesday. So until next Wednesday, folks, I'll see you then. Until then, have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend as well. And stay safe out there. Stay warm out there as well, especially if you're in Manitoba, as it is going to get pretty cold here. I see the snow. It's fallen quite a bit today already. It looks pretty windy outside. So if you can, take that opportunity to stay bundled up, stay warm inside your home or wherever you guys are at, as well as if you go out, make sure to stay bundled up as well, because I don't want anyone getting frostbite or anything like that, right? So yeah, until next Wednesday, folks, I'll see you then. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Have a good one. And until next week on Wednesday, I'll see you then, everybody. Take care. Peace.
Hello, my name is Loretta Mitchell, owner of Evolve Green. And here at Evolve Green, we take the environment very seriously. We have a 10 kilowatt solar system that offsets our main facility by 75%, as well as maintaining natural prairie on our grounds. Our mission, creating renewables that work for you. I started Evolve Green in 2008 with a passion for the environment and wanting to change my corner of the world. And that remains the same today. Through design, consult, and installation, we provide renewable energy systems and storage integration. Here at Evolve Green, we help Canadians rethink power and storage to help fortify our children's future. To learn more, visit evolvegreen.ca.